It's the middle of August and a beautiful, beautiful, still warm morning, and the rose bay willow herb is dominating the area behind the garden. And the rose hips by the back gate are beginning to show some colour. And there's just such a wonderful smell of roses, even though most of them are over now. I planted nasturtiums in the raised bed last year and they self-seeded, something I really love to do because it saves so much time and money. And these have come through the fencing at the back and cascading down onto the back path. The bumblebees. Hydrangea hiding behind the trailer there. It's got some really healthy looking growth on it. I'm going to think about where I can put it for next year, where it'll actually be seen a bit more. The alpine strawberries are looking really healthy, and they've got some fruit in there. Just a little snack as I go around the garden each day. And the lilies haven't done brilliantly. It's been so dark and wet this summer, but we've got the beginnings of a flower there, all covered up by the rose. And the rose, which was also struggling, is now putting on buds. It's mid-August, so the nights are getting longer, and it's a good time for actually sowing some salad stuff. They're unlikely to get the heat at the critical point now, so that they won't bolt, and they're doing really well. So I've got radishes and rocket, and at the back coriander, which probably won't show up on the film, and then above them a couple of sunflowers. Here we are on the other side of the fence with the nasturtiums, covering a large area of ground here in front of the soft fruit. I've picked the gooseberries, small crop, but it's beginning to settle into this new garden. I've pruned the fan cherry, nothing on that yet, but I wouldn't expect it when it's so young. And here's one of the nicotianas that my neighbour gave me back in the spring. Lovely deep red, and a small sunflower behind. And while the honeysuckle is coming to an end too, it's developing lots of red berries. And then we have the Canterbury bells, which are still blooming. They've been going for weeks and weeks and weeks. Sunflowers don't seem to have been bothered by the fact that we've had such a wet, cold summer. And these look fabulous from the kitchen window. So when I'm looking out this way in the evening, I'm looking into the west. So I get the sun shining directly through these petals, which is incredible. And then again, self-seeded. These marigolds were all self-seeded from last year. What I take is a handful of the seeds in the late autumn, and I just throw them around the garden. And if they turn up anywhere where I don't want them, I just pull them out. But it's a way of filling spaces without too much work, which I'm always very much in favour of. That's very much a hangover from when I was too ill to do much. This is a very big, long bed. It's going to take a while for me to develop it up. But for now, it's full of colour and full of bees. And at the foot of the sunflowers, more nicotiana, white ones this time. Nicotiana is a flower that has quite a strong scent, but mainly in the evening because it attracts nighttime pollinators. So if I come out in the evening, these glow like little stars and they smell gorgeous. and they're mixed in with Phacelia, this little blue flower, which is another one much beloved by bees. And I just get such a splash of blue again when the light is on it, looking from the kitchen window. Always makes me smile. And this year the kale has just taken off. It's been incredible. We're already eating it. This time last year it was maybe a foot high. It's really filled in this corner of the garden. And then this wall of lettuce, cut and come again lettuce all along the front. So that was just a pinch of seeds early in the summer in one pot. And I pricked them out in a long line, and we've been eating lettuce for weeks now. They haven't bolted yet, although they're just about to. And I have another pot of lettuce seedlings in the greenhouse ready to come out, which hopefully will keep us in salads well into the autumn. And this is Jacob's ladder. It's a white one. I think they're more often blue. This is something that was here when I moved in. I think it's called Jacob's ladder because the leaves look like little ladders. We've had some quite strong winds, which have knocked this mullein over even more. It's still flowering, but I'm going to have to watch this because otherwise it will produce huge amounts of seed, and I'll be picking it out of the paving all of next summer. And then behind you can see I like to grow French beans with a sunflower at the middle because they support each other. And we've just had our first picking from those this weekend. And then there's just this riot of colour around my bench where I was meditating this morning. I bought a packet of sweet pea seeds for less than £1 back in January, soaked them overnight, and then potted them in little pots, put them in the ground in May, and I've been picking sweet peas for weeks now as well. And when I sit meditating on this bench, I'm just surrounded with this phenomenal scent. So gardening doesn't have to be expensive. All of that colour and scent for less than £1. And then behind is the herb bed with the bright yellowy green of marjoram. The purple flowers is also marjoram. Lots and lots of bees in that at the moment, so when that's finished flowering I'll cut it right back and it should have a second flush of leaves. And then at the back you can see the chives, little spikes sticking up there. That was a single pot of chives from the supermarket which I split up, planted out. I'll have chives for years now. Again, you don't need to spend a fortune, and it doesn't have to be huge amounts of digging and hard work. This bed has very few weeds in it now because there just isn't space for them. It's more a matter of my coming out with the scissors and just trimming it back every now and again. This is a rose that I brought with me from my old house. It was in a pot. It's called Margaret Merrill, and it has a really intense scent. Her plant's been struggling a lot with black spot, so it's wonderful to come out this morning and see this lovely flower. It's coming out despite everything. And this is hyssop, which is a herb that's mentioned in the Bible. It had medicinal properties. I'm not sure what for. Incredible blue flowers. And that's sitting next to the chives, which I cut back a couple of weeks ago, so putting on lots of new fresh growth after finishing with most of the flowers. And the patio in this part of the garden, having been laid on what used to be a bog, has sunk, so we've got some real ups and downs. So I spent an afternoon lifting some of these bricks that edge of the lawn, putting more sand underneath them so that they're flat. So now they are much higher than the paving slabs, so what I've got to do next is do the same thing with the paving slabs and lift them up a little bit as well. You can see also the entrance into the little rose garden, that's the same thing. A little pile there of the bits of cement that I've knocked off the bricks. So it's quite a big job, but actually doing it in just small bursts has been quite therapeutic, really. Nothing quite like whacking at a brick with a with the chisel to get the concrete off it, and then standing back and seeing it looking all nice and straight. An awful lot of weeds to get from between these paving slabs as well. The greenhouse is a lovely space to be in. It's humid and warm and it smells of tomatoes. This is the Italian plum tomato. Maybe a little bit behind other parts of the country. We haven't had a lot of sunshine, but we'll get some. And if the worst comes to the worst, I'll bring them inside and ripen them inside with a banana. Chili's also struggling with a little bit with the lack of sunshine, but I've put on a lot of growth in the last couple of weeks, and now I've got lots of these deep purple, black coloured chilies. This is one called Fairy Lights, and these will change from black to scarlet to bright yellow. Not sure in that order. It might go from yellow to red. Very, very hot. And we've had a really good garlic harvest, so I brought this in. It's hanging up in the greenhouse to dry. Almost there, but the centres of the stems are still a bit green, and then I will plait them up. We've got 2 bunches like this, which will keep us in garlic for the whole of the next year, really. And I'll probably use a couple of bulbs to plant for the following year. I'll do that in November. And the new veg bed, the kale is almost bursting out. I'm going to have to do something with that soon, otherwise it's going to start bending over. I've had a lot of dill from here as well, which I've dried. So again, supplies for the rest of the year. And then the leeks at the back have almost reached the top of the netting. I'll leave this on, I think, until the end of September, because there's still leek moth and cabbage white butterflies, which would really make a mess of these crops. I'm glad to report that most of the feathers have grown back on Tina, the black chicken, although she's still got some bald bits around the base of her tail. They've been feather pecking, which is quite a common problem, so I've been spraying them with a special thing to deter them. Apparently makes it taste bad. I've only just spotted these fungi. Incredibly delicate, and they look almost like glass crystal bowls on stems, swaying in the breeze. And there are Welsh poppies everywhere. Again, something I brought with me, but actually found that they were already here. So again, I scatter the seed and then they scattered their own, and I just take out the ones I don't want. I really thought earlier in this summer that we weren't going to get any apples at all. There aren't very many of them, but they're beginning to swell, get a little bit of colour. I'm quite hopeful there. This one is beaver seedling. The one I took as a graft on a training day, which originally came from Beaver Castle, which is very close to where I used to live. The beech hedge is looking nice and healthy, and the lilac. This is one of the planters by the front door, which, as you can see, there are tomatoes beginning to ripen, and lobelia and pansies. And the acer that was given to me by my husband's aunt, which sat in a pot and was sickly for a long, long time, is also beginning to find its feet, or find its roots, as you might say, looking an awful lot healthier. And behind it, 2 cordon apple trees. Lovely glossy new growth. And the buddleia, I really thought had probably died. Again, it's just settled in and covered in blossom. And finally, it's not the best time of day to be looking at these because they're in shade in this morning. But the brilliant red of these dahlias. These are tubers that I actually found buried in the compost heap when we moved here. As I planted up in these tubs, covered them with spring bulbs. So there's been something in bloom in these tubs mostly since March, I think, when the crocuses started. So this is my garden in August. This is where I meditate in the mornings, and then this afternoon I'm going to lie back in that hammock with a good book and just look up at the hills and enjoy living in this wonderful place. If you found this video helpful, please do click on like below and subscribe to my channel. You might also like to hop across using the links to my Facebook or LinkedIn pages where you'll find much more content.